This conference will now be recorded.
So in today's session, we are going to discuss about the future methods. And we'll see what exactly the future method, what is the use, why do we need to use the future methods, like what scenarios we can go with these future methods, and how can we implement the future methods, what are the various considerations or the rules that we need to follow upon preparing the future methods, and what are the limitations are available, what are the drawbacks are available inside these future methods. Now let's see practically this case. For example, come to a general scenario. Assume that I have an organization. This is my Salesforce organization. So this is my Salesforce.com organization. And I'm having the Salesforce server. So this is the Salesforce server. I'm having the Salesforce server is also there. So now inside my organization, I have written some small piece of code. Okay, I have written some small piece of code. Like inside my organization, I'm writing some small piece of code. For example, I'm writing some small piece of code inside my organization. This is my Salesforce.com organization. I'm writing some small piece of code. Like I'm defining a small class. I'm preparing a method inside this. Public class, some math operations. Here I'm preparing a method. Public void addition or some show message, whatever, anything, some sample show message. There is a procedure is available inside this. Now I would like to execute this one. I would like to execute this one. Here I'm writing some message, system.debug. This is show message. I'm printing some message over here. And my debug log file, I'm printing some message. So I have written some piece of code. Now I'm trying to be executing this piece of code, okay, inside my Salesforce instance. So how can we execute this one? Whenever we are going to be executing this one, we have to use the class name dot method name because it is a static method. I'm invoking this method right now. How can we invoke math operations dot show message? Math operations dot show message. I'm invoking this method. I'm executing this method. I'm executing this method right now. Whenever you are invoking this method, request will be sending to the Salesforce server. Request will be sending to the Salesforce server. Now Salesforce server is trying to be executing this method. It will be printing the results. Now in this case, for example, if the Salesforce server is busy, if the Salesforce server is down, then what will happen? If the Salesforce server is busy with some another request, then what it will do? Immediately it will be sending the response back, nothing but will try to connect to the Salesforce server. If the Salesforce server is unable to connect, then it will be giving the response back over here. Your request will be getting aborted automatically. Your request will be aborted automatically because it is having some time limit to connect to that. That means there is a timeout option is available. So where it will be having some certain period of time, okay, till that time it will be trying to connect to the Salesforce server. If the Salesforce server is able to connect, then server will be receiving my request. It will process my request to send the response back. Suppose if the Salesforce server is busy, if the Salesforce server is down, in this case, what happened? Immediately, my request will be getting aborted. Okay, immediately, my request will be getting aborted over here. That means if the Salesforce server is available, then it is going to be receiving your request. It will start processing the request. It will send the response back. Suppose if the Salesforce server is unable to receive your request, then at that time, your request will be getting aborted here. This the process will be happening. But now my requirement is I don't want to abort my request here. I don't want to abort my request. Even though the Salesforce server is busy right now, then take your own time. Then whenever you are free, then please execute my method here. I want to inform to that Salesforce, boss, I don't have any hurry right now, so I'm not expecting the response right now. So now please take your own time, and then whenever you are available, whenever you are free, then consider my request and start execute it, then send the response back to me later also. That means please make this a method to be executing future. Future means what? Okay, after a few minutes, after a few seconds, after a few hours, after a few days also, no problem for me. Because I don't have any hurry right now. So now take your own time. Whenever you are available, whenever you are free, then take this request and then execute it, send the response back. I will wait for that one, no problem. I want to inform to that Salesforce, then please execute my request, okay, whenever you are available. No need to execute this request right now itself. Whenever you are available, whenever you are free, then please execute my request and then send it the response back to me. That means what? Whenever if you're having a normal method, okay, whenever if you're having a normal method, upon executing this normal method, so if the Salesforce server is available, it will take up your request, it will be executing that, it will send the response back to you. Suppose if the Salesforce server is busy, if the Salesforce server is unable to connect, then immediately you will be getting the response back that your request cannot be considered. That means here your request will be getting aborted. But in this case, I want to inform to the Salesforce, boss, don't discard my request, don't abort my request, take your own time. Whenever you are available, then please execute my method, then send the response back to me later also. No problem, I will wait. I don't have any hurry right now, so please take your own time, then execute it. So in this case, how can we inform to the Salesforce that no need to execute this method right now itself? Then please take some time. After some time, also you can execute it and send it. In this case, upon defining this method, we have to define this method with an annotation called as @future annotation. @future annotation. So now we have to define this method with @future annotation. That means this is a future method. Future means what? Okay, which will be executing in the later status, not right now. If the Salesforce server is available right now, then it will take up, it will execute it. Suppose if the Salesforce server is busy, then what it will do, whatever the future methods are available, these will be placing inside the Salesforce queue. Whenever Salesforce server is available, then it will execute your method, it will be sending the response back. So now then when Salesforce server will be getting available, it may be after a few minutes also, after a few seconds also, after a few hours also, after a few days also, no problem. So in this case, what happened? We are going to be informing to the Salesforce. So please don't execute my method right away. If you are available right now, then execute it and send the response back to me. Suppose if you are busy right now, then please consider my request, place my method inside your queue, and then whenever it becomes available, then execute my method and send the response back to you. So in this case, whenever if you want to execute a method by placing inside that Salesforce queue, then we have to define that method with the help of an annotation called as @future. So future annotated methods are not executing within my organization. These are executing by placing inside that Salesforce queue. Like as your batch class, future methods are also executing by placing inside that Salesforce queue, Apex queue. Okay, this is the first advantage. Whenever if you want to execute any business logic by placing inside the Apex queue, then we can able to go with that future methods. That method we can define with future. So the future methods are always executing whenever Salesforce resources becomes available. Whenever Salesforce server is available, okay, whenever resources becomes available, okay, then it will be executing that method to be sending the response back to you over here. Now, this is the first benefit of future methods. Okay, so future methods are used to make the methods to be get executable by placing inside the Salesforce queue whenever Salesforce resources becomes available. Now, this is the first one. Next, the second one is when coming to the Salesforce instance, we have so many objects are available. Okay, as part of your Salesforce instance, we are having so many objects are available. You know those objects also. We are having few standard objects. We are having few custom objects also. Okay, we are having few standard objects. We are having few custom objects also, like as account, contact, opportunity, lead, case, and then we have created our own custom objects also over here. Now, so in this case, whatever the objects are available inside your Salesforce instance, these objects has been categorized into two types. Whatever the Salesforce objects that we have, including standard and custom, these objects has been categorized into two types. The first one is setup objects. Second one, non-setup objects. First one is setup objects. Second one is non-setup objects. Then what do you mean by these setup objects? And what do you mean by these non-setup objects? What objects are comes under setup objects? What objects are comes under non-setup objects? Okay, now let's see. Now, so first of all, we have to understand what do you mean by a setup object in Salesforce instance. Now, when coming to our organization, we have used the declarative features. Declarative features means what? Okay, through mouse pointers, we have configured so many features. Okay, like as creating the users, creating the objects, creating the fields, and then creating the workflow rules, creating the validation tools, and then creating the business processes and creating the email templates. So many features we have configured over here. So in order to store all this information, internally it is using some objects. Those objects are called as setup objects. That means what? Setup objects are used to interact with the Salesforce metadata. Metadata means what? Features which we have implemented. Okay, the features which we have implemented through declarative development. Okay, declarative development means what here? Declaratively, nothing but just by using mouse clicks, mouse pointers, admin features. So through admin, what are the features we have implemented? Okay, like as we have configured so many features. Email templates we have created, users we have created, profiles we have created, groups we have created, nothing but the queues. Okay, queues we have created, and then email templates we have created, workflow rules we have created, page layouts we have created, business processes we have created. These are all comes under the metadata features. That means what? Whatever the features we have implemented, okay, as part of Okay, declarative development. Declarative means through mouse pointers, through admin features. Whatever the features we have implemented, those are comes under declarative features. These declarative features are called as metadata. Metadata means features which you have implemented without writing any code, just by using some mouse clicks. Now, in this case, in order to connect to that metadata, okay, in order to interact with that metadata, okay, we are using this set of objects. Now, so the set of objects are used to interact with the Salesforce metadata. Salesforce metadata for the declarative development. For the declarative development. So that means what? Through declaratively, okay, through declaratively, that means through mouse pointers, we have implemented so many features. So now those features are comes under metadata part. Metadata means what? Whatever the components you have implemented through mouse pointers, those are all comes under metadata part. And then whenever if you want to interact with that metadata, we are using this setup objects. Then what objects are comes under setup objects? Now let me explain practically. Like user object, profile object, business process object, and then custom field object. Custom field is a custom object. Sorry, this is a standard object. This is an object name. Custom field is a standard object name which will be holding all your custom fields information. Whatever the custom fields we have created inside your organization in any object, all the custom fields information will stored by Salesforce inside this object. And the custom object. It's an object name. Okay, custom object is an object name which will store all your custom objects information. And the custom tab which will be storing all your tabs information. Whatever the custom tabs you have implemented, all this information will be storing inside this the custom tab object. That will. And the group. And then we have field is set. And then we have the profile we have specified. And we have record type. We have such a layout. Such a layout. Like that, these are all are comes under the setup objects. We are having that workflow rule, okay, and the validation rule. These are also comes under validation rule. Workflow rule. These are all are comes under the setup objects. That means what? Setup objects are used to interact with the metadata of Salesforce through declaratively. That means whatever the features we have configured through declaratively by using the mouse clicks, those are comes under the metadata part. So like as we have configured some users, we have configured some profiles and the business processes and the custom fields we have created, custom objects we have created, custom tabs we have created, documents we have uploaded, and then queues we have created, field sets, record types, set layouts, validations, workflows. These are all comes under the setup objects. So now in this case, the remaining other objects, okay, except this one, the remaining other objects. Now, remaining all standard and custom objects are comes under non-setup objects. Non-setup objects. For example, account, contact, lead, opportunity, like that, along with your custom objects also. Hiring manager, position, customer, branch, loan, like that. What are the other objects we have created? Those are comes under non-setup objects. So when coming to that Salesforce instance, whatever the objects are available inside your Salesforce instance, those objects have been categorized into two types. First one is setup objects, second one non-setup objects. What do you mean by setup objects? Setup objects in the sense only those objects which are used to interact with the metadata of Salesforce, which we have implemented by using declarative features. That means as part of admin, we have implemented so many features. Like as we have created some custom applications, custom tabs, custom objects, custom fields, validations, and then workflows, and then business processes, record types. So many things we have implemented to store all this information. Okay, it requires some objects, right? Yes, these are these objects here. So Salesforce is using these objects here. So now here, that is user object, which will store all the users information. Profile object will store all the profiles information. Business process object will store all the business processes information. Custom field object will store all the custom fields information. Custom object which will store all the custom objects information. Custom tab object which will store all the custom tabs information. Like that here, in order to store the metadata of your Salesforce, whatever the metadata we have implemented, whatever the metadata that you have implemented through declaratively, in order to store all that metadata, because Salesforce is using some objects internally, so now those objects are comes under setup objects. So setup objects are used to interact with the Salesforce metadata, okay, through declarative development. Now, and the remaining other objects are comes under non-setup objects. Okay, now in this case, when you try to perform the DML operation, okay, when you try to perform the DML operations on both setup objects and non-setup objects within a single transaction, that means when you try to perform any DML operation like as insert, update, delete, okay, on the combination of both the setup objects and non-setup objects in one transaction, then Salesforce won't allow. Okay, Salesforce won't allow you. Now, Salesforce won't allow you to perform the DML operations on both setup objects and non-setup objects within a single transaction. Now, let me close that. When the user tries to perform,
Feroz,
yes,
@ feature can be right for the class also, right?
no, only for that method.
Okay. And here in the non-setup objects, there is some custom objects, and setup objects also there is custom object. What is the difference
Where
between
is the
the
custom
custom
object?
object?
In setup object, we don't have any custom objects.
Here you
Custom
have written,
object,
right?
see, custom object is a standard object name. This is also one of the standard object maintaining with Salesforce to store all your custom object details.
Okay. Custom settings is there, right?
Custom settings is separate.
Okay.
That is also comes under custom object only.
Okay.
So now when the user tries to perform the DML operations on both setup and non-setup objects, within a transaction, Salesforce will raise an exception. Okay, that is called as mixed DML operation exception. Salesforce is raising an exception called as mixed DML operation exception. It's a common question in every interview. What do you mean by mixed DML operation exception? When it will be getting arise, how to solve this problem? So when coming to the users, whenever the user is trying to be performing the DML operations on both setup objects and non-setup objects within a single transaction, Salesforce won't allow. So at that time, it is raising an exception called as mixed DML operation exception. Then to avoid this mixed DML operation exception, we are using the help of future methods. By using these future methods, we can able to avoid the mixed DML operation exceptions also. Okay, that facility is available. Now, here's the second advantage here. By using this future method,
Growth.
we can able to avoid the mixed DML operation
Can you
exception.
repeat me one more
Second
time?
one, now. When coming to the user, when the user tries to perform the DML operations on both setup objects and non-setup objects within a single transaction, that means I'm inserting one, okay, I'm going to be updating one user record, that means update means DML statement. If I'm updating one hiring manager record, that means update statement. Both I'm writing within a single method, both I'm executing within a single transaction. At that time, Salesforce won't allow. Salesforce doesn't allow you to perform both setup and the non-setup object DML operations within a single transaction. So now to avoid those kind of problems, we are using the help of future methods. Through future methods, we can able to avoid mixed DML operation exceptions also. Now, so these are the two major scenarios here. For that, we are going to be implementing that future methods inside your Salesforce instance. Yes, tell me.
@future if you are using for a class, so how can system knows that when to perform? Suppose after 5 minutes it is future, after 1 hour also it is a future, if tomorrow also it is in a future.
Then that's what I told you, right? Based on the availability of the Salesforce resources, it will be executing that. There's no confirmation of the time. When it will execute, we don't know. Whenever Salesforce resources becomes available, it will be executing that. That may be after a few seconds also, after a few minutes also, after a few hours also, after a few days also. Based on the required resources available from Salesforce side, it will execute that process from the server side. Till that time, that will be placing inside the queue.
Yeah, okay.
That's what we are defining that method as future. That means no need to execute right now itself. If you are available right now, then please process it. If you don't have that required resources right now, if you are busy right now, then take your own time. Till that time, place my request inside the queue and then execute it whenever you becomes available. For that one, we are defining that method as @future. Generally, for example, whenever we are going to be having the integration facilities, okay, whenever we are having the integration facilities, at that time we are using the help of these future methods. Like for example, let me explain a small scenario. For example, assume that I'm having the two applications. So this is my Salesforce application. I'm having my Salesforce application. And then like the similar way, I'm having an SAP system. I'm having an SAP system. Two applications are available right now. I'm having my Salesforce application, and then I'm having my SAP application also. SAP system. Now inside these applications, I'm having an object. I'm having an object. This is my customer object. So I'm storing some customer data or some patient data, whatever. So now I'm using that an object which is used to store some patient's data. Like as a patient ID, name of the patient, and the age of the patient, and the gender. Now, I'm indicating these columns over here. Patient ID, name of the patient, and the age of the patient. I'm indicating a doctor name. Okay, to which doctor you would like to consult. I'm indicating that. This is the patient object. Like the similar way, I'm having this object also inside my SAP system. The same object is there inside my SAP system also. Now my requirement is As soon as whenever I'm creating a new patient record inside my Salesforce instance, immediately it has to copy that record into my SAP system also. That means through integration. Through integration, I want to copy that record into my SAP system also. So then what we can do, as soon as whenever I'm going to be creating a new patient record inside my Salesforce instance, then with the same details, I want to create one patient record inside my SAP applications table also. In SAP application also, we have a table with the name patient, or it may be different name also, whatever. Table name may be different, whatever. I'm not bothered about that. So now, I'm having a patient table is available inside my SAP system also. I want to copy this record from my Salesforce application patient table to the SAP system server. So in this case, what happened? How can we do that? As soon as whenever I'm creating the record inside my Salesforce application with some details, if I'm creating a new patient record, for example, assume that I'm creating a new patient record inside this. The patient ID is like some P1001, first patient. Patient name is some Kiran. Age is some 29. Doctor is some Dr. Sam Ram Kumar. He would like to consult this doctor in order to get some consultation regarding some disease, regarding some health issue. So now, as soon as whenever a record has been created inside my Salesforce application, immediately I want to copy this record into my SAP system. But in this case, whenever I'm trying to be executing this method immediately to connect to that SAP system, at that time SAP system may be in down stage. To connect to that SAP system, it will take some time because we need to make an integration call. We have to make an integration call to the SAP system, and then we have to connect to that. Then only we can able to insert the same record into the SAP system. For that one, it will take some time. But in this case, what happened? I don't want to execute it right now itself because SAP system may be busy right now with some other processing, or SAP system may be down also. In this case, what I want to do is I want to prepare a future method. I want to prepare a future method over here. As soon as whenever I'm creating a new record, now here I'm going to be initiating a request. I'm going to be initiating a request over here. I'm initiating a request to my future method. Now the future method is going to placing inside my Salesforce queue, and then whenever this particular resources becomes available here, it will be trying to be syncing the data into my SAP system over here. Whenever SAP system becomes available, it will be keep on trying inside that. It will keep on try by placing this method inside the queue because it is available inside the queue. So whenever the SAP system becomes available, it will be inserting this record into my object. So in this case, what happened? Now here in this meantime, I can continue to create some more records inside my Salesforce application as well. In the background, it is going to be executing behind the screen. So in this case, whenever we are going to be syncing the data from one application to another application through integration, then at that time we are using the help of future methods. So future methods will be utilized during the integration processes. Upon integrating the data, upon getting the data, some different other third-party systems. So at that time, to connect to the third-party system, it will take some time. So that the third-party system may be available, third-party system may be down, it may be like a crash also, we don't know. So at that time, it will be keep on trying for some time. If it is unable within the specified time frame, it will be sending the response back to you that I'm unable to connect to that third-party system. Maybe that third-party system may not be available over there. So that here, in this background process, I would like to run some operations. So for that reason, we are using future methods. Now, this is one of the scenario where we can able to go with the future methods also. Now, so in this case, when coming to the future methods are used to execute some piece of code by placing inside the Salesforce Apex queue, which is not executing immediately. That may be executing immediately also, we don't know, because here when the Salesforce is busy, server is busy, it will take some time to execute your method. If the Salesforce server is free right now, it will be executing immediately also. Yeah. That's what they have given that name as future. That means here it won't be executable right now also. Suppose if it is executing right now, then fine, no problem. Suppose if it is Salesforce server is busy, that will be executing the future. Future means after a few minutes, after a few seconds, after a few hours, after a few days also, whenever Salesforce resources becomes available. Whenever the required resources are available at the Salesforce server side, then Salesforce will execute that method till the time that method will be placing inside the Apex queue. So that future methods are always executing by placing inside that Apex queue, not in our local organization. These are not executing within our organization. These are executing always by placing inside that Apex queue. Now, so in this case, whenever if you want to execute some methods by placing inside the Salesforce queue, then we can go with that future methods. And the second one, whenever if you want to solve the problem of mixed DML operation exception, if you want to avoid this mixed DML operation exception, then at that time also we have to use the help of the future methods. By using the future methods, we can able to avoid that mixed DML operation exception. And whenever if you want to synchronize the data from different systems by using integration processes, then also we can able to go with that future methods. These are the multiple scenarios where exactly we can use that future methods also inside your Salesforce instance.
Firoz,
Yes.
suppose if there is any scheduler for this particular class, so in such cases, if I use future method, so which is going to execute first? Suppose if my
No.
scheduler is running for every 5 minutes, and if I have used the future class in that, so will it system will allow us to run the future class first or the scheduler first?
No, in this case here, even though if it is a scheduler also, scheduler is going to be based on the schedule time, it will be trying to be executing that. It will push into the queue. Okay, when it will execute based on the availability of the resources inside the queue only here.
Okay. Suppose if the
Based on-
scheduler got executed first, so the whatever the request was placed in the queue, will it get wiped off or will it be staying in the same queue itself?
It will be in the same queue itself. It will be in the same queue.
Okay.
First of all, whatever the order is available inside the queue, based on that first come, first serve basis order only, it will be executing that.
Okay.
Even though if you're going with the scheduler, so it will be executing based on purely based on the availability of the Salesforce resources, not exactly at the same time. That's what when you go to that, because reports also, whatever the time frame that is specified, will be clearly indicating that these are executing based on purely based on the availability of the Salesforce resources. Like for example, when you go to your reports also over there, let me show you. When you go to the reports also, whenever if you want to schedule any reports, whenever we are going to scheduling for a report, I'm indicating that. Now, so now it is indicating that I'm indicating the time as from morning at 3 o'clock. So now it is indicating clearly here. So exact start time will depends upon the job queue activity. Okay. So now 3 o'clock means exactly at 3 o'clock your job may not be executable. Your report may not be executable. Why? Because here during the 3 o'clock it will be pushing this particular report into the queue. Then in the queue, how many the jobs are available? Okay, it will be depends upon the requirement. So maybe so many jobs are waiting inside the queue. At that time, your report job will be at the end. So once the first starting jobs will be getting cleared out, then only it will be executing your report. So it may take some time delay also here upon executing, because there are so many jobs are waiting inside the queue. That's what they're clearly indicating. 3 o'clock scheduling time means don't expect the execution of that job exactly at the 3 o'clock. Based on the availability and based on the jobs available inside the queue, it will take some time as well. They're clearly indicating this. So if you are using the future method will be in the queue. After that, your next scheduler will be getting pushing into the queue again, like that one by one.
Okay.
Now, so now here in this case, whenever if you want to avoid this kind of mixed DML operation exception, then we are going to be using the help of the future methods. Now, then how can we implement these future methods? Now let's see practically. First of all, let me try to execute this one. Let me try to create a record or updating some record, try to perform some DML operations on both setup objects and non-setup objects within a single transaction. Let's see really whether this exception will be getting arised or not. If this exception will be getting arise, then how to solve this problem? Okay, we'll see practically by using this future methods. Then we'll see how to create the future methods, what are the various rules we need to follow, and what are the limitations are available as part of future methods we'll see. Now, so let me take a small scenario. I would like to take a small use case like I would like to take one user record, that means a user object. User object is comes under setup object. Now, what I want to do is I would like to take any of the user record. I would like to deactivate the user. I would like to deactivate the user through programming. I would like to deactivate the user through programming. Second one, let me take a hiring manager object. Let me take the hiring manager object. Hiring manager object is comes under non-setup object. Now I would like to create one hiring manager record. I would like to create a hiring manager record inside my object. So this is insert and this is update. Both are DML statements only. Now I want to deactivate one user record. Okay, I would like to deactivate one user record, and then I would like to create one hiring manager record. You know how to deactivate the user, you know, and then how to create the hiring manager, you know. So now this complete code I would like to write within a single method. Then we'll see, okay, what kind of exceptions will be getting arised. So what kind of problems will be getting arised. Now let's see practically in this case. So now let me create a small class and then define a method. I'm creating an Apex class. I'm going to be creating a class with the name common helper. So now I'm defining a method inside this public static void. I'm indicating two DML operations. I'm preparing a method with the name do DML operations. Inside this method, I want to perform the DML operations on both user object, and then I want to perform the DML operation on hiring manager object also. Deactivate the user record. Enter. Create a hiring manager record. I want to perform both these operations within a single transaction itself. So this is the user record. This is nothing but setup object. And this is the non-setup object. Hiring manager is a non-setup object. I'm performing the DML operations on both setup object and non-setup object within a single transaction. Let's see. Let me take one user record. Let me try to deactivate the user. Let me go to the users. For example, I would like to take the development user or some testing user. Currently, testing user is in active status right now. Testing user is in active status. I want to deactivate this testing user based on this user name. Now, user to deactivate equals to I'm collecting the user information. Select the ID of the user, user name, is active. From user, where username equals to, I'm indicating this, limit 1. I'm collecting the user record. Based on this username, I'm collecting the user record from the user object, and then I'm storing inside my object user to deactivate. Once the record has been getting stored, then I would like to verify if user to deactivate that ID not equals to null. That means if the user record is available, then I would like to deactivate. How can we deactivate? User to deactivate that is active. There is a field is available, checkbox is available, is active equals to false, and then I'm updating this. Update user to deactivate. Simply, I'm collecting the user record. Based on this username, whatever the user record is available, I'm collecting the user record. That means testing user record. I'm storing inside my object, and then I'm verifying if the record is really available or not. So whether this username is correct or the username is wrong. For my confirmation, I'm verifying this. So whether the record is available or not. If the record is available, I'm going to be deactivating the user, okay, by allocating the is active field value as false. Is active is a checkbox which is indicating whether the user is in active status or not. So that I'm assigning the value as false. That means it will be deactivating the user. I'm updating this information back to the user. Next. So now I'm deactivating the user record by using my program. Now, in the same transaction, I would like to create a hiring manager record also. I'm creating the hiring manager. Hiring manager HR record equals to new hiring manager. Now I'm passing the values for this required fields. In my hiring manager object, I'm having few fields are available. For those fields, we need to pass a value. HR record dot name. I'm passing the value like as Sudeep Kumar. I'm giving the HR record name as Sudeep Kumar. HR record dot location. I'm giving the value some Mumbai. HR record dot contact number. I'm passing the value. HR record dot email ID. Sudeep some gmail.com. I'm inserting the record. Insert HR record. I'm inserting the HR record inside my object. I'm creating a new HR record. So now this is the piece of code that I have written. That means what simply I'm going to be creating one hiring manager record inside my object, and then I'm updating one user record. User object is comes under setup object, and the hiring manager object is comes under non-setup object. So I'm performing the DML operations on both setup objects and non-setup objects within a single transaction. Now let's see, try to execute this method, observe what will happen in this case. Now, let me invoke this method. Common helper dot do DML operations. Let's try to execute this code. Click on execute. Now, here it is going to be raising the exception. In my code, there is no issue. Code is perfect. Code is perfect. Logic also fine. Syntax also correct. Compilation is successful. The code has been saved successfully, but upon executing that, it is causing some exception to me here. Now, system.dml exception. Now it is indicating that error called as a mixed DML operation exception. Then what is that exception? What is the issue over here? Now, let me explain. Now, DML operation on setup object is not permitted after you have updated a non-setup object, or vice versa. Okay, or vice versa. That means what? Whenever you are trying to be performing the DML operations on both setup objects and non-setup objects within a single transaction, Salesforce won't allow. It is raising an exception that is called as mixed DML operation exception. Then to avoid this kind of mixed DML operation exception, then what needs to be done? In this case, we have to use the help of the future methods. How do we know? How can we implement the future methods over here? That means what here? What is the problem in this case? When you try to perform this operation on user and the hiring manager, it is causing some issue. Boss, you can't execute this one in a single transaction. Make it as a separate transaction. That means this is in one transaction and this is in another transaction. That means 2 times you have to execute separately. Now user record code I have to execute separately, and then hiring manager code I have to execute separately. But I don't want to execute 2 times. Here I want to execute only 1 time. Then what we can do? In this case, you can raise a question. Sir, for example, if you're placing this code inside a separate method, then I'm placing this code in a separate method. I'm placing this code in a separate method. Public static void create HR record. I'm placing this code inside a separate method over here. Now this method is separate, which is having the code of performing the updating that user record. This method is having the code of creating the HR record. So now you have to execute this separately, you have to execute this separately. But I don't want to execute 2 in separate transaction. I want to execute in 1 shot. That is my requirement. So now here in this case, what happened? We can able to call this method also. Okay, we can call this method. Okay, after updating this. Invoke the method to create HR record. I would like to call this method. Okay, I would like to call this method. So now, whenever I'm invoking this do DML operation method, once a user record has been getting deactivated, immediately it will be invoking this particular method also. Okay, immediately it will be invoking this method. But that is what happened. Both are executing in the same transaction only. There is no separate transaction. So now method different means what here? It doesn't mean these are transactions are different. Within a single transaction, it is going to performing the same thing. That means both the operations will be getting executed within a single transaction over here. But then also it will be raising this kind of problem. Okay, then also it will raise this kind of problem. Now, let's see in this case. Let's try to execute that. Again, same problem here. Even though I'm making the code the 2 separate transactions, 2 separate methods, it is raising the same because both are executing within the single transaction only, because these are the linking methods are available. One method is invoking the second method, so that here both will be executing within the same transaction. So because of that, it is going to cause this kind of issue. Now, then what we can do? In this case, what I want to do is I don't want to execute both the methods within my organization. I want to execute this method within my organization. I want to execute one method from outside of the organization. Outside of the organization means what? By placing inside that Salesforce queue. Okay, by placing inside that Salesforce queue, I want to execute that method. Then how can we execute this method? What I want to do is I want to define @future. Okay, I want to define this method @future. In this case, whenever I'm going to be defining the method @future, then what will happen? Future methods are not executing within your organization. Future methods are always executing by placing inside that Salesforce queue. This will be placing inside the Salesforce queue. That means what? Salesforce queue means what? Background process, nothing but outside of your organization. Whenever I'm invoking this do DML operations, it will be updating my user record. Then second method, it is placing inside the queue. So queue will be outside of my organization. Whenever you are executing anything by placing inside the queue, everything will be taking a separate transaction internally by default. But here I'm not maintaining the transaction. It is going to be taking care internally by default. I'm executing only once, but both will be executing. But internally, one is executing within my organization, second one is executing outside of my organization. This is how we can able to avoid these kind of problems also with the help of these future methods. Now, in this case, you can raise a question. So, suppose, for example, if you want to call out nothing but if you want to invoke this particular third-party system, okay, through this future method, then what we can do here, we have to use a parameter called as callout equals to true. If I'm indicating call out equals to true in the future method, then the future method can invoke the third party web services also. Whenever if you want to invoke the third party web services through future methods, then we have to define that future method with the parameter call out equals to true. That means which can able to invoke that outside service, which can invoke the outside web service also. It can call that outside web service, that is called as call out. Call out equals to true. Then it will invoke the third party web services so that we can able to sync the data into the respective third party systems as well. We'll see this concept during the integration concepts over there. Now. So now in this case, I would like to implement the future method. Now, whenever we are going to be defining the future method, we are having some certain principles. We have to follow some certain rules upon defining this future methods. Then what are those rules we need to follow while defining the future method? Now let's see. Rules. The first principle, upon defining the future method, we have to follow some certain principles. The first principle is, whenever we are defining the future method, the method should be prefixed with an annotation called as @future annotation. Future method should be always prefixed with @future annotation. Method should be prefixed with @future annotation. @future annotation. Now this @future annotation is going to be informing to that Salesforce, okay, don't execute this method right away. Please push this method into the queue, and from there it will start executing. Now, the second, whenever we are defining the future methods should be always defined with a static keyword. Future methods should be always defined with static keyword. Future method should be always defined with static keyword. It should be always static. Next, the third rule. Future method doesn't return any value to the calling environment. So that future method return type should be always void. Future method should be always defining with the return type as void, because future method won't return any value to the calling environment. Future method doesn't return any value to the calling environment, so that future method return type should be always void. Next one, the fourth rule. Now here we can raise a question. Sir, can you pass any parameters to the future methods? Yes, we can pass, but there are some limitations here. Whenever we are going to passing the parameters to the future method parameters should be either primitive type of parameters. That means primitive means what? You know that, like as integer, double, decimal, or it may be like as string, boolean, like that. These are the primitive type of elements here. So now future method will accept the parameters of type primitive type, or arrays of primitive, or collection of primitive. Okay, arrays of primitive, collection of primitive. But it won't support any subject type of elements. Okay, it won't support any subject type of elements. Now, whenever we are going to passing the parameters to your future method, so now future method will be accepting only the parameters of type primitive, arrays of primitive, collection of primitives. Yes, subject type of parameters cannot be supported as a parameters for your future methods. That means future method doesn't support a subject type of parameters. That is the fundamental principle. We can supply the parameters to the future methods, which should be of primitive type, comma, arrays of primitive, comma, collection of primitive. We can't supply the subject type of parameters. To the future methods. We can't supply the subject type of parameters to the future methods. This is the rule. Now, so now in this case here, let me show you practically in this case. For example, I'm passing the parameters over here. Like as I'm passing the string parameter, string some str or some customer name. With the string type of parameter, which is my future method. Let me save this code. It will be accepting as it is.
Saros,
Yes.
can you give example for fourth point?
That's what I'm showing to you. Let's see. Upon creating this future method, let's see. I'm passing the parameter of type, okay, string. Okay, with the string type of parameters over here. So now string type of parameter is accepted as it is. I'm passing the arrays of strings, like a string array. String array, like some country names. I'm passing that string array here. String is also primitive type here. So now in this case, it is supporting you. Next, I'm passing that list collection, list of string, like as LST. LST, I'm going to be indicating like as names. Now, in this case, what happened? It is going to be supporting these parameters. That means what? Future method will be supporting the primitive type of parameters. Primitive in the sense what? Integer, long, decimal, double, string, boolean, and then we are having the date, time, object, okay, block. These are comes under the primitive type of elements. Yes, subject type of elements means what? Account, contact, opportunity, case, solution, and your hiring manager, position, customer. These are comes under a subject type of parameters. In this case, what happened? Upon preparing this future method doesn't support the parameters of type yes subject. It will be supporting the parameters which should be either primitive type or arrays of primitive or collection of primitives over here. But we can't supply a subject type of parameters. Suppose, for example, here, let me show you that. A subject type of parameter. For example, I'm removing this one. I'm removing all the parameters over here. I'm passing account some ACC. I'm passing a subject type of parameter over here. Now let's see in this case. It is giving an exception to me over here. It is raising an exception to me over here. Simply I'm passing account to type parameter. It is giving a problem over here. So what is the problem in this case? Now it is indicating future method do not support parameter type of account. It won't support a subject type of parameter. For example, I'm passing like as my hiring manager. hiring manager, some HR. Let's see. So in this case, it is indicating future method do not support parameter type of hiring manager. That means what? Yes, subject type of parameters cannot be supported as parameters in future methods. It's a fundamental principle. So that future method doesn't support this as subject type of parameters, we can pass the parameters of type primitive or arrays of primitive or collection of primitive. Yes, subject type of parameters cannot be supported. Now, in this case, in the entry point of view, they will raise a question. So I want to supply yes subject type of parameters to a future method. How? I want to pass one account record to my future method. How? Then what we do? I want to pass one account record to my future method. In this case, what we can do, don't pass that account record, because if I'm passing this account record, some account, some ACC, it won't accept. Then for that one, what we can do, now for this account record, there is an ID is available, right? So pass that ID over here. ID is what? Primitive data type. Now I'm indicating account record ID. Pass this account record ID, because ID will be primitive data type, so it will be accepting as it is over here. It will be accepting as it is. So now ID is a primitive data type that already you know that. So pass the ID of that account record. Once ID is available, then make a query inside your method. Inside your method, make a query to get the record over here. Like account sum ACC equals to, we can get the ID here. Select ID, name, rating, industry, annual revenue, so and so columns, whatever you want from account, where ID equals to account record ID. That means what? Whenever if you want to pass the subject type of parameters, subject type of parameters will not be supporting by the future method directly. We can pass the ID of the record. Based on that ID, we can able to supply that. We can able to query the records inside this. Now, sometimes here we can raise a question. Sir, I want to pass multiple account records here. Then pass that collection of this record IDs here, list of ID. You can pass multiple records if you want to supply, pass the multiple record IDs over here, and then we can able to get this information. Where ID in, we can use this collection over here, but it will be returning that list of records. That's it. It may be single record, it may be multiple records also, whatever you want. So that here, whenever if you want to pass that a subject type of parameters, then Salesforce won't support you to pass a subject type of parameters. So in this case, always we have to supply the ID of that record, and based on that ID, we can able to query the records information inside your future method. That's what here. Now that means what? If the future method is supporting account type, directly will pass the account record, then no need to write one additional SO cable query inside this. But future method is not having that solution. Future method is not giving the provision to me to pass that subject type of parameter. So because of that, I'm passing the ID. I'm writing one additional SO cable query, okay, inside my method. So because of that, one additional SO cable query is going to be happening here. So for that reason, as part of this future methods, it is going to be providing 200 SO cable queries. Okay, in future method we can write 200 SO cable queries, because future method doesn't support a subject type of parameters. It will be supporting only primitive type, so that if you want to pass a subject type of parameters, instead of passing that account record, pass the ID of the record. You can pass the ID of the record, based on that ID, write one additional SO cable query, and then get those records here. So that additionally we are writing some SO cable query. That's what here now Salesforce is going to be giving the ability to you that we can write 200 SO cable queries inside this. This is the way. This is the first solution. Okay, this is the first solution. Now, in this case, for this one, the solution one, we can supply the record ID as a parameter, and we can write the SO cable query inside the method to get the record details. based on the record ID. That's what here. We can use 200 SOCable queries inside the future. This is the first solution. I will show you one more solution also. Maybe in the interview point of view, they will raise this question as well. Now, in this case, there is one solution. Whenever if you want to pass a subject type of parameters, if you want to pass a subject type of parameters, then we have to pass the ID of the record. Based on that ID, we can able to query the records information. This is one solution. Second one. For example, if you want to pass this one account record here, for example, I'm having one account record is available. Account ACC equals to new ACC dot new. Now, like as I'm indicating the name as a future account. ACC dot rating. Like as some hard. ACC dot industry. Some finance. ACC dot annual revenue. Some 34 years. ACC dot active status. I'm indicating some yes. ACC dot phone. I'm passing some. ACC dot fax. I'm passing some. ACC dot ownership. I'm indicating some credit. This is my account record is available. I want to pass this account record to my future method. Then what we can do? If you're passing this future method, it won't accept. We need to convert this entire account record into my string type, because string is what? Primitive type. So we can pass a primitive type of elements. So for this one, whatever the account record that we have, we convert this account record into string type here. Convert the account record into string by using system.json.serialize method. Serialize method. So here we are using the concept of serialization and the deserialization. Serialization means what? This complete account record. Account is a subject type. We can't supply the account record to my future method. Okay, we can't supply the account record to a future method. Then what we can do, whatever the account record that we have prepared, this account record I want to convert into a string type. The string value I would like to pass my method. Then once the value is coming into the method, once the string value is coming into the method, then I will convert from string to my account type again over here. That means account to string I'm converting over here, and then once it is reaching to my method, then I'm converting the string into my account type again. That means here, like as conversion, serialization, deserialization. Serialization means what? Converting affix type into string type is called as serialization. How can we do that? This is my account record is available ACC. I want to convert into my string variable here. For that one, we are using system.json.serialize. Okay, system.json.serialize. Here, pass the object. What is that? ACC. Now it is converting this object here. Whatever the account record object is available here, this will be converting into string type. Now I'm storing inside a string variable. Okay, ACC record. Now this value I would like to pass to my method. Okay, now I would like to pass this value to my method. String ACC. Okay, string ACC. Now I would like to pass this value over here. Now what is my method here? Create record. Create record of ACC record. See. So now here I'm passing this method. So now what I did, whatever the account record that we have prepared, this account record I have been converted into a string variable over here, nothing but string type, and then the string value I'm passing to my method over here. Now it is accepting as it is. Once it is coming into my method, then here I would like to convert this string into my account type again. That means account to string, string to account. For this one, we are using deserialization methods. So in this case, I'm using system dot JSON dot deserialize. System dot JSON dot deserialize. What is that string value here? That is nothing but ACC. Here the value. In this one, the string variable, we are having that record. Please convert this one into what type here? This will be converted into account type. Account dot class. Account dot class. Please convert this string value into my account type over here. Actually, this is an account record. I have converted into my string type. So please convert this string value back to my account over here. But this will be treating this element in the form of a subject type or the object type. We need to convert into account type over here. Now I'm doing the explicit typecasting store inside an account variable. And from there we can able to insert that record also over here. That facility will be available to you. Okay, so we are going to be converting over.
If you want to convert lead object, means we have to write here lead dot class.
Yes, right, lead dot class. That's it. Okay. So once it is reaching this particular method, we can able to convert into deserialization process over here. It may be single record also, it may be multiple records also. If it is a multiple records, you have to use that list of account.
And Feroz, in the top, why we write the create record?
Yeah, we are
create
calling this method, right? We are calling this method. For this method, I'm passing this string value here. Okay, I'm passing this account record to this particular method. If I'm passing it, is accepting over here as it is, like that. This is the second mechanism. Whenever if you want to pass that subject type of parameters to your future method, the way is the first one is we can pass the ID of the record, then we can write some additional SQL queries to fetch that. Or else we can use the deserialization methods. We can use serialization and the deserialization methods. So the second solution is serialization process and then deserialization process. By using this serialization and the deserialization, we can able to implement this functionality. So now, this is the way. Whenever if you want to pass a subject type of parameters, we have to follow this kind of two methods. This is the way. Next one. The next one is when coming to the future method. Whenever we are going to be invoking the future method, we have to follow these processes. Next, when coming to the future method, one future method cannot invoke and another future method. One future method cannot invoke another future method. Generally, we are calling one method from another method. This is the method which I'm calling from another method. But in this case, one future method we can't call from another future method because future methods are executing by placing inside that Salesforce queue. So in this case, the first method is going into the queue. After that, that is invoking second method here. That is also going into the queue. When that will be coming from the queue outside, so we don't know. So that this will be going in that circular process here, circular queue process. For that reason here, one future method cannot be invocable from another future method. It's a fundamental principle of future method. Next, the sixth method. The sixth limitation when coming to that future methods is whenever we are going to be using this future methods, future method does not provide any tracking mechanism. Okay, future method doesn't provide any tracking mechanism. It doesn't provide any tracking mechanism. It doesn't provide any tracking mechanism. What do you mean by tracking mechanism? Previously, when you go to the batch programming, upon pushing a batch job into the queue, it is going to be returning the ID, right? Whenever I'm pushing that batch job into the queue, it is returning an ID to me here. Now, in this case, I have discussed that. Whenever I'm pushing this batch job into the queue by using execute batch, it is going to returning the ID. Based on the ID, we can able to query that status of the batch job by using execute async apex job object. Through programmatically, I can able to query. But whenever I'm going to be making a method as future, where the future method is going to be placing inside the queue, but it will be generating the ID by Salesforce, but that ID won't return back. So future method doesn't return the ID of that future method to you, so that we can't track that status of that future method through programming. Then how can we track this one? We have to go to the user interface. Through the user interface only we can able to track it. How? We can go to the monitor, go to the jobs, go to the Apex jobs. From there we can able to see that result of your future method. Whether it has been executed or whether it has been failed, we can able to track that information over there. So that if it is a batch job, we can track the result by using two ways. One is by using user interface, second one is by using programming. But future methods can be accessible, future methods can be tracked through user interface only. Through programming we can't track it, because to track that result of that future method through programming we need the ID, but future method doesn't return any ID to you. Salesforce is generating the ID by placing inside that queue, but that ID will not be written back to you, so that without the ID we can't track that result. There is a major problem in that future methods. Now, so let me go to the future methods. How can we execute it? So when you go to the future method doesn't return any ID to you over here. So because of that, we can't track the result of the future method through programming, that we can able to track through user interface only. Through user interface means what? How? By using that monitor, jobs, and then Apex jobs. Because this is also executing by placing inside the queue, right? So that is nothing but Apex queue. So all the jobs which are running by placing inside the Apex queue, those jobs results we can able to see, okay, inside that Apex jobs. Inside the monitor, jobs, Apex jobs. From there we can able to see the results over there. Now, so let's see in this case. Now let me execute this one. So now this is the do DML operations method, which is going to be updating this particular user record, and then I'm invoking one method that is called as a future method, so which is going to be creating a hiring manager record inside my object. Now let me verify. Before that, let me verify whether this user is inactive or not. Now, so now still the testing user is in active status right now. Now I would like to execute this method. Invoke this method now. We have used feature method over here, so the process has been initiated over here. Let's go to that user interface. Test this one. Refresh this user interface. Now it is indicating testing user has been deactivated successfully over here. Testing user has been deactivated. And then go to the hiring manager. A record has been created with the name Sudeep Kumar. What are the details you have entered? With these details, Sudeep Kumar record has been created successfully over here. That means both the operations has been done. One is done within your organization. Second one has been done by executing from outside of your organization by placing inside that Salesforce queue. Then in this case, I would like to verify that what is that the future method execution status. Let's go to the setup menu. Go to the monitor. Go to the jobs, Apex jobs. So now it is indicating that. So this is the future method has been executed right now. This is the future method. Job type is future method. Just now it has been executed over here. Status is completed. Number of batches are 0. Failure batches are 0 here. That is available inside a class called as common helper class. The method name is create HR record method, which is the future method. For this one, it has allocated the ID as the ID has been allocated by Salesforce. Even though Salesforce is allocating the ID, but the future method won't return this ID to you to track the result through program. We can track it through by using user interface. This is the way we are going to be using this future methods inside your Salesforce instance. So whenever I'm using this future methods, we have identified some limitations over here. What are those limitations we have identified? Future method doesn't support any yes object type of parameters. This is the first problem in the future method. But at that time, we have to go with some other alternative mechanisms. This is the first one. Second one future method cannot invoke the another future method. Nothing but chaining process is not available. Chaining process not available. That means what? One future method cannot invoke the another future method. This is the second problem. Okay, chaining, nothing but linking process is not available. Third problem, when coming to the future methods, future method does not provide any tracking mechanism. That means what? So once the future method has been getting executed, it won't return any result back to you. We can't track the result of the future method through programming. We can track through by using the user interface only, by using the monitor action. There is no other alternative mechanism. These are the three major drawbacks are available when coming to the future methods. So now, to avoid these three drawbacks, they have introduced one more feature called as queuable apex. It is also called as queuable interface. Like a database.batchable, we are having one interface called as system.queuable. So now queuable apex is nothing but an extension for future methods. For the future method, there is an extension. Okay, there is an extension that is called as queuable. So now what are the three drawbacks are available inside this future method? All the three drawbacks we can overcome with the help of queuable interface and the queuable apex. Then how can we use this queuable interface? And then how can we use this scheduling concept? We'll see in tomorrow's session. In tomorrow's session, we'll see the queuable and then scheduling concept so that we can complete the asynchronous programming concept by tomorrow. And from day after tomorrow, we are starting the concept of triggers, which is the most important and which is the most typical topic as part of development. Okay. And after that, we'll go forward to that, some more concepts like as Visual Force like that. Now, but tomorrow we are completing this asynchronous programming. Okay. Because this is a common question in every interview. Okay, what is the difference between future method and the queuable interface? It's a common question in every interview. So now, so that you should be able to aware of that, in the future method, these are some limitations are available. To avoid these limitations, we are going to be using queuable interface. How to achieve, how to implement, we'll see with a practical example in tomorrow's session as part of queuable class. How to implement this queuable interfaces, we'll see practically in tomorrow's session.